When buying or selling your home, you need to feel protected. Realtor Mike Burgoyne not only looks out for your interests, but as a St. Louis area police officer will make sure you feel safe and well-informed with every decision. Email Mike at strikewithmike.com and start the process today. That's Mike at strikewithmike.com. A proven winner on the hockey rink, Joe Wolf knows what it takes to be the best. That's why he has the best rates in the area and only has rave reviews of his work with Wolf Power Washing. Get that siding back to its original color with Joe. Call him at 314-420-5434. That's 314-420-5434. This is Let's Go Blues Radio, and I'm your host, Jeff Ponder. This is episode number 31 of season 13, also franchise episode number 462 all-time. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by Mike Burgoyne of Real Brokerage Realty. Contact Mike at strikewithmike.com or call him at 314-753-4060 and get started selling your current home or buying your new home today. And by Wolf Power Washing. If you're in the St. Louis area and need the services of a professional power washer, Joe Wolf is your guy. Call him at 314-420-5434 and get the best prices in the area. On today's show, we are talking with the creator of Puckdoku. His name is Dixon. Bill Day will actually be joining us for this episode as well, just not here in the open or in the close. But, for those of you who love Bill Day, no, we don't have a Save of the Week this week. We do have Bill joining us because Bill and I are avid Puckdoku players. We literally share our scores with each other and the players we pick pretty much every single day. So it's quite adorable, not going to lie. But before we get into that, a couple announcements and one little Blues note to mention. I was on Monday's Locked On LA Kings podcast. So if you're familiar with the Locked On series, I know Haley does a great job with the Locked On Blues podcast. Locked On is a series where they basically have a new show every single day, which is daunting to me to have, especially in the off season. You know what? Once a week is hard enough. So Eddie Garcia, friend of mine, friend of the show, and just overall friend, had me on. He actually is running the LA Kings, Locked On LA Kings podcast, and we just discussed, so they got a coaching vacancy right now, so we talked about Craig Berube as the possible head coach for them, as well as why a team might let the interim coach stay. Which, again, they had the same situation as the Blues last year where they had an interim coach, and there's talks that he might stay on as well. So he kind of asked my thought on what the Blues did with that. Also, I will be on this week's Puck podcast. So Eddie cannot get enough of me, apparently. So if you are interested in, again, hearing me talk about playoff hockey, we do talk about that. And that episode should be released on Thursday. That would be May 16th, I believe. Check that out. Always love talking with Eddie about all things hockey related. All things hockey related, the big news that came out for the Blues this week is they will pick 16th overall in the 2024 NHL Draft. Actually, that was announced last week. I just failed to mention it. They will have 9 picks in this draft, which I think a lot of people don't realize. It's only the one first-round pick, but they've got 2 picks in round 2 and then 2 more picks in round 3. So they've got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. That's pretty good. One of them comes from the Rangers in the Tarasenko deal, and then another one comes from the Maple Leafs in the Ryan O'Reilly deal. So overall, I think the Blues got great value for those guys and being able to, again, have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. And we'll see if the Blues make all those picks. But, stock the shelves a little bit more, right? That's kind of what we want to see with this team right now. So excited to see what they do in the 2024 draft. Well, as I said, let's get into it. We have Taylor Dixon from Puckdoku on, the creator, a software developer who brilliantly came up with this game. I don't want to say on a whim. Clearly, he put a lot of thought into this, but not something that he was tasked with doing. He just thought, man, this would be really cool to have a hockey game like this. And again, Bill and I are addicted. So we were very happy to have Taylor come on and talk with him. So we will get into that. And again, on the other side of our break, you will hear from Bill as well. Thank you for listening again, everybody. And here we go. First, you are going to hear from our sponsors, our wonderful sponsors. And when we get back, you will hear from me, Bill, and Taylor Dixon of Puckdoku.
We'll return after these messages.
St. Louis hockey fans know how it takes a reliable captain and a team of hard workers to achieve major goals. As a police officer and a hockey player, Realtor Mike Burgoyne would wear the C in any situation. As a leader in the home buying or selling process, Mike has surrounded himself with a team of trustworthy inspectors, lenders, and escrow officers that work together more cohesively than Hall & Oates. And as a member of many teams in his life, Mike knows the service our first responders, veterans, nurses, teachers, and yes, even you Let's Go Blues Radio listeners provide the community, so he offers special rates to those individuals. Find the value in Mike's leadership and teamwork today by emailing him at mike@strikewithmike.com or calling 314-753-4060. He'll work closely with you and only show you the homes that match your goals. That email again is mike@strikewithmike.com or call him at 314-753-4060 and succeed with your new teammate today. Well, honey, I just priced the power washing for the house, and I think we should just move and condemn this place. It'll be cheaper.
Did you try Wolf Power Washing?
Who?
Oh, I just saw this guy win the Stanley Ponder Cup Memorial Tournament and thought he was attractive, so I looked him up on social media, and it turns out he's the owner and proprietor of Wolf Power Washing. He claims he has the best prices in town.
But does he use non-flammable, non-toxic chemicals that are safe for Wolfie and our son, little Magnus?
Yes, he ensures there'll be no residue left behind, and he doesn't use any volatile vapors.
Well, this fella sounds like a dream. I just wish I knew how to contact him.
Oh, I know how. You can reach him at 314-420-5434.
314-420-5434, and his name is Joe Wolf of Wolf Power Washing?
That's right.
But how did you know his number so quickly?
I'll never tell.
Wait, what?
That's Wolf Power Washing at 314-420-5434. And make sure to tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you.
And now, back to Let's Go Blues Radio, the longest running St. Louis Blues podcast with Price, Ponder, and Day.
All right, we are back from break, and we are joined today, and actually I'm joined by Bill Day, who's here. If you're on the podcast, you're not seeing him, but if you're on the podcast, trust me, he looks great, as he always does. Bill, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for coming on your own show and joining me this summer. But yeah, Bill, good to see you. How's your summer been so far?
Busy,
Yeah.
very, very busy. And yeah, for those who can't see me, I'm still in the work duds. So
Yes.
no chance to even unwind when I walk through the door tonight. So
Well, we've got a fun interview that I know you and I were both looking forward to. So this can be your way of unwinding, Bill.
that's right.
We are
It's how I
joined.
unwind every day.
That's true. Me too. That's how I start my morning. And then if I can't get it done in the morning because I'm too dumb and my brain's not working, I go back to it after work. So we are, of course talking about Puckdoku. For those of you that listen to Let's Go Blues Radio regularly, you know Bill and I are obsessed with this game. So we are very honored and happy to be welcoming in Taylor Dixon, the creator of Puckdoku. You can follow him on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. You can follow him at Puckdoku, but of course, go on and play puckdoku.com. That's where you can find it. Taylor, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day.
Yeah, what a great intro. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Of course. And Taylor, before we get into Puckdoku, I do think it's important to note you live in Calgary, but you are a Canucks fan.
That's true.
So clearly you are enjoying the hockey season right now. You just shared with us that you went up to Edmonton. We're recording this Monday, May 13th, that you went up yesterday to Edmonton to see the Canucks and Oilers, and clearly the Canucks came away with a big win. So what was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. So this was game 3 for those that are listening later, in which the Canucks beat the Oilers 4-3, and it was a great game. It was I was pretty nervous when the Oilers got the first goal, and you kind of thinking like, oh man, did I come all the way up here uh, for a blowout? 'Cause I think they got the first goal in the first like 2 or 3 minutes, but it was nice seeing what I thought was a Besser natural hat trick. It actually turned out that they took away one of the goals in the admission, but not before all the loyal Canucks fans threw their hats on opposing ice. And yeah, it was a great game. I will say though, I've never had such a sense of dread than any time the Canucks took a penalty and having to watch the Oilers power play get to work. Like I would look over at my wife and we both just kind of be like, "Oh man, like this is a stressful time." So I was sitting in the corner. I also found it was much nicer being on the Canucks shoot side than having to watch the Canucks defend McDavid for the 30 minutes that he played that night. So yeah, it was a great time.
Man, that's yeah. Well, we got to ask you about the play at the very end that led to a fine for Nikita Zadorov and a suspension, 1-game suspension for Carson Soucy.
Yeah.
What's your take on what happened?
What's my take? So first off, that was on the entire opposite side. So I didn't even know anything happened until I got back to my hotel room, and then I saw that Twitter was blowing up. But I think one is fine. I think if you were to ask most of the people in my WhatsApp groups, that it's absolutely ridiculous, and the league's out to get us. But I don't know. I think it was a pretty chippy game, and I think my Canucks friends may hate me for saying this, but I think it was maybe like one step above everything else that had happened in the game. So the league wants to make sure that people aren't just trying to take out McDavid all the time. So I get it. Am I nervous that probably the third best defenseman is now out for a critical game 4? Absolutely.
Yep, I would be too. And I haven't heard any word on McDavid. I don't know if you guys have, and obviously we're recording this on Monday, so I'm sure by the time this airs, people will have a better idea what happened. But yeah, interesting play.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything specifically, but he did do like media scrums today. So obviously he's well enough to, they didn't take out all his teeth or anything like that,
Right.
or hit his vocal cords. So I think he'll be fine. I'm willing to bet he'll play 30 minutes again on game 4.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those suspensions that goes up if McDavid misses a game, right?
Yep.
It's typically one game in the playoffs is 2 or 3 in the regular season, but if there's an injury, especially to a star, you'd expect it to be 2 in the playoffs, maybe 5 in the regular. But yeah,
that was a pretty good hack that McDavid put on him before that cross check too.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Or how about the hack that he put on Hughes the game before, and kind of I don't know if you saw that.
Oh yeah,
that whole play, but that was one where when like something happens and then your phone just blows up with like 5 different text messages. Like that was one of those things for me where just everyone is just sending me all these expletives of like what just happened on the ice. And
Yep, I know how that goes. When Bill, we've talked about this a million times. When Jonathan Toews scored in overtime on my birthday on Ryan Miller, and that was the game that put the Hawks up 3-2, and kind of knew that was going to be a bad situation. Yeah, so Taylor, for I was at the game. I was about 8 rows off the ice. The minute I don't know if you remember what game I'm talking about, 2015, probably not. He comes out of the box, Duncan Keith blindly just throws it out of the zone, and Jonathan Toews right on the tape. No one picked him up. He had all the time of the world. It was the year the Blues had Ryan Miller in goal, and he just came in and beat him. When he got the puck at the red line and he had no one on him, I just did this. I covered my eyes and I looked at my wife and I go, he's going to score and I'm not going to watch it. And my phone, within 5 minutes, I probably got about 27 text messages like, Ponder, stop having the Blues play on your birthday. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But
yeah, the glorious Ryan Miller era
Yes.
The
The
Yes.
5% era, right?
the Blues legend. He's speaking of Puckdoku, it's a great. He's a great one for like the Puckdoku goalie categories, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he is. And I was going to say that, Bill. You mentioned 5%. I mean, maybe he does get you a 5% if you choose Blues
Oh,
and Canucks.
I would actually bet Blues Ducks. He'd probably get like a 1 or 2 or maybe a 0.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 5% was when Doug Armstrong made the trade, said, we're just looking to get 5% better. And like, yep.
But that trade kind of ruined like trade deadline goaltending for a long time, right? Like
Yep.
like that was like anytime any team was ever saying like we need to upgrade our goaltending, like he was the case on why you need to kind of be careful.
Yep. And
Agreed.
go from within. Learned his lesson in 2019.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Not that
And well,
that
even
was
the next
trade
season,
deadline, but
they went with Brian Elliott the next season, and he was
Yep.
great in the playoffs.
yep.
So-
And then jettisoned him right after when he demanded to
That's
be number
right.
1.
That's right.
We're really good at goalies here.
Yeah, we really understand goaltending in St. Louis. Taylor, let's kind of pivot over. We were just talking about Puckdoku a little bit. I thought about it. I was like, in the open of this show, I could just explain Puckdoku for those that maybe don't play it or maybe tune Bill and I out when we start talking about it. But I thought, you know what? We've got the creator of Puckdoku, so I'm just going to give you the softball. What is Puckdoku?
So Puckdoku is a hockey trivia game in which you have kind of like a 3x3 puzzle, and you have teams or stats categories on the left, teams or stats categories on the top, and then what you do is you kind of form like a matchup between two teams. And so, for instance, you might have the Blues and the Canucks, and your
Peter Nedved.
Peter Nedved would be well. So you're trying to find a player that has played for both of those teams or that team in that stats category. And you can only use a player once, so it's kind of like that Sudoku where you can only use a number once. And so sometimes a player may fit on multiple squares, and you're tasked with using him in the square that you want, but you want to pick one that that you can set all the other ones for. So that's kind of the basic version. And then on top of it, there's this additional layer of scoring called uniqueness, where you can think of Blues and Canucks. Peter Nedved's one option, but you can probably think of off the top of your head, you could rattle off 10 or 12 or whatever, but there's probably more like 40 or 50 where that might fit for that particular square. And so what you're doing is you're actually playing against everyone else who has played Puckdoku that day to find the player that all the other Puckdoku players have used the least, and that's called uniqueness. And it's kind of like a golf score where the lowest uniqueness is better. So a player like Peter Nedved would actually probably be a pretty good answer. Another one might be like Derek Roy would be one where people wouldn't even remember that he really played for Vancouver, because I think speaking of trade deadline, that was a trade deadline acquisition. But a more common one maybe in the top of my head like Pavel Dimitra or something like that. Rest in peace. Where the more like the one that immediately comes to mind.
I got one for you guys that I think trumps all the ones you've said. Brian Helmer.
Oh,
there you go. I've
nice.
used
there you
that
go. That's
before
the zero.
with Blues and Canucks.
That's the 0.0 uniqueness for sure.
There you go. Yeah. So like you said, golf scores. And that's the beauty about this game, I think, mostly is, because you've got a competitor out there, I guess you could say. And Hockey Reference has the Immaculate Grid, which is the same idea, but they don't have the uniqueness. And I think that's, forgive the pun, that's what makes your game unique is. And so I wanted to ask you, like, how is that? Because, like, if I play in the morning, I think it updates 2 a.m. Central Time, I believe, every day. So when I play in the morning and not a lot of people have played yet, how does it determine my uniqueness score?
Yeah, so two things. First, the other site also does, in fairness, have a similar scoring concept to uniqueness, but it's called something else. But how it works is when you play a game, whether or not you have a user account, I track every player that has been played for that specific square that day. And so for Canucks and Blues, every time that you're completing your game, I'm like collecting that data, and I just have basically like a running tally where it's like, okay, Derek Roy played once, and then Pavel Dimitra played once. So then as the day is going on, those like tallies are being stacked up, and then it just changes constantly, right? Because typically the most popular time of day is between 7 and 9, 8 and 10 a.m. Eastern time, right? Like right when people are getting into work, right when people are taking their, taking into the bus, or sometimes right when they wake up and they're eating breakfast. And so as people are playing, I'm just counting those answers. And then whenever you load the game, I just kind of get the current tally. And then that's how I score the thing. So if you think of it in a simple time, way, is let's say 10 people have played today, and then 5 have picked Pavel Demitra, 2 have picked Peter Nedved, and 3 have picked Derek Roy, something like that, then Derek Roy would have a uniqueness of 30%. So that's how I kind of run with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, in terms of, I mean, uniqueness, clearly, like, what's one that maybe you've played that, and I know I'm asking you to go through your memory banks. I'm guessing you play your own game, right? You
Oh
play
yeah,
every day?
every day, yeah.
Nice. So, like, what's one of the better ones that you feel like you've come up with?
Oh, one of the better ones off the top of my head. So uh, there was one recently. Trying to think of a really good one. Uh,
How about you, Bill? Do you have one you can think of off the top of your head?
My favorite play of all time was Bunny LaRock,
Oh,
Blues Canadiens.
nice.
that's pretty good. I think I got like I one of my favorites, because one of my favorite players growing up was Brendan Morrison, and so like he played for New Jersey for like 2 years, Canucks for like 10 or 12, and then he played for a bunch of teams to end his career. And so those are really good ones where like he played for Washington, I think, for half a season. So I got like Washington and 500 plus assists, Brendan Morrison. That was like a 0.0, right? Because it's just such a, like, you wouldn't really think of him as a Caps player, right?
Yep. I was pretty impressed with myself. I don't know why I knew that Bob Corkum had played a very small percentage of his time with the Philadelphia Flyers, but he played with them and the Anaheim Ducks, and I got that one. And I remember when I was entering it, I'm like, I'm gonna miss this. I'm gonna miss today. Oh my god! And then it popped up and it gave me like 0.2%, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a genius.
Um, my dad's favorite player is Ron Settlebauer. I don't know if you've heard of the name, but he played a couple of years in the late 70s and early 80s. And my dad stopped following hockey in like 1993. And so for him, when he tries to play like almost every day, and he'll often text me with like okay, give me a hint for this one. But he's always really happy when he gets Ron Settlebauer for a category, and he's guaranteed to get 0.0, right? Like it's just one that no one else would think of. So
Yep. Oh yeah, I love it. So what gave you this idea to do this, and where'd you get your inspiration from?
yeah, so just as a bit of background, I'm a full-time software developer, and I'm always kind of working on weird little side projects, or whether it's software related, or like gardening in the backyard, or just like something, like I always have some silly side projects going on. The last one before this was like a fishing regulations app for Alberta to help you kind of track, like, like what you can catch in what lake, just like really niche, really just mostly for me, just for something easy and test my skills. And so last summer I was in the backyard doing some gardening, listening to a podcast, and I was listening to the Puck podcast with Down Goes Brown, Sean McIndoe, and Ryan Lambert, and sorry to plug another podcast. And
That's
they were
perfectly
they
fine.
it was classic, what I would call, like, it wasn't technically full off-season content, but it was after the cup was awarded, after the draft, and so there was really not a whole lot to talk about. And I'm sure as podcasters, you know what that's like. And so they were just playing like this game, where this trivia game of like this 3x3, and that was popular in baseball, and they just like drawn it up on paper, and then one podcast host was just quizzing the other of just like, okay, now find one for this, now find one for this. And I was listening to it, and I was thinking, like, man, I could, like, I as a developer, I could build this, right? Like, I could build this into a game, and this sounds like a lot of fun. And I was like, you know what, this actually sounds like a lot of work. And so I just kind of like, I shelved it for a week. I was like, I want to be able to enjoy my summer and do other things besides looking at a computer for more time on my day. And then a couple of days later, I just heard someone else kind of like talk about, oh, like, like there's this fun trivia game. Like, it would be sweet if there was like a hockey version. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to take the afternoon, like, having done a little bit of work just at a hobby level with player stats before. Step one is like, can I even get like like player stats to make this thing possible, right? Because that's not always free. Some companies charge an arm and a leg for it. So can I do that? Look through, and it's like, yeah, I can get that done. So I messaged Sean McIndoe on Twitter, and I was like, hey, like, you played this thing, like, have you heard about anyone that's made a Twitter or a hockey version yet? And he was like, no, but someone really needs to. I just got back from the draft, and like, everyone's like talking about this. So that was on like a Tuesday, and I basically spent 4 hours in the evenings, then 3 hours in the mornings, and I would work a full day, and then I'd come, and then like 4 hours in the evenings, and I probably did that for like 4 or 5 days. And then I had this basic prototype. I found a free data source. It went back to, I think the first one went back to 1980 or something like that. Like, it wasn't a full list, didn't have a whole lot, but at least it was something, right? Like, I could get the teams and kind of get it out there. There's no player faces, lots of mistakes. I didn't have any like older teams. It was just like current teams. And so I sent it to a couple of friends. Like, the prototype was very rough. Like, I don't know if you played in the first day or two, but it was very like it didn't work on dark mode. There's lots of problems. So I was playing it with some friends, and I just sent it to Sean McIndoe on Twitter. Like, I was like, hey, like, here's a link to this thing. I built it. What do you think? And then he said, looks great. And then he tweeted it out. And which is fine. Like, I was like, hey, like, feel free to, like, I said, feel free to share it around if you want. I wasn't expecting him to like immediately send it out. And it was like nothing I'd ever, I've been a developer for 13 years. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, where I was using free web hosting, and all of a sudden I got this ping where it was like, you've gone through 75% of your free web hosting quota. I was like, that's kind of weird. And then like, eating a bowl of cereal like before bed, and then it's like, you've used, like, 5 minutes later, it's like, you've gone through 100% of your free like web tier quota. I was like, oh my god, like, gotta get to the website, like, put my credit card in the thing to like keep it going. And like, I woke up the next morning, and I typed in like Puckdoku on Twitter, and then there was like 30 or 40 people were like posting their scores, right? And so that was where I was like, okay, that's like, this is way beyond anything I was expecting, right? This is probably going to be really big.
Yeah. Bill, do you remember when you started playing? Because I think you started before I did. Because I believe it was you that told me, like, you should check this out. You would love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There was something else that we had messed around with that, was okay, but, lost its fun real quick.
I remember we did Gordle for a while.
That's what it was. So
Gordle,
right.
Gordle's fun. I actually know just after this, like, I've kind of become introduced to the guy that runs Gordle. Great guy. So
okay, awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun little site.
Yeah, there's just something about, I'm not trying to shit all over it or anything. It didn't keep my attention. Like there's a staying power with Puckdoku, and I want to say it was probably. I mean, I want to time, and I'm sure everybody feels this way now. Post pandemic, you don't really have a great sense of time, but I feel like it was sometime, November-ish.
Yeah, I want
Is
to
that
say it was probably maybe right when the season started, like
Okay.
October, November-ish.
Yeah.
So we,
So
we're there. We didn't play a lot in the summer, so we probably did miss all the. Unfortunately, we missed all the bugs.
Well, I'll take it. That's good. And like I honestly, so day one was July, and like I said, like I worked, on and off for like 4 or 5 days, basically straight up until this, and then I continued that for like 3 months straight, basically, where I was just like every day I was just waking up 3 hours of Puckdoku, 8 hours a day job, like cook, do the dishes 2 hours before bed, and like try and get some sleep. So like, um, I kind of the fact that you really enjoy it, like I take that as a really good compliment because like first and foremost for me, I've really tried to focus on making it just a fun experience, even down to like having like the players' faces slide in when you like pick them and stuff, like just a bunch of little things just to like really invest in making it feel uh as as fun as possible. So
It's funny that you
um,
say that because I always take it as a win when I get a player that doesn't have a picture because I'm
yes,
like that usually means it's like a 0.1%. So I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and I will say, that's probably the biggest complaint I get about Puckdoku is just missing player photos. I will say the reason why is not because like I'm not some like arbiter of like someone deserves a photo and like someone doesn't deserve a photo. Player photos are hard to source sometimes, and it's just a matter of uh, like the data source that I've used may or may not have it. It's if anyone listening to this, if your favorite player is missing their photo, it's not because I think they suck. It's just because there's 8,000 players in the league, and I also have a life, so I try and add
Bill,
missing ones as I can.
I know that you knew that I was going to bring this name up, but I want my damn Vladimir Chebaturkin photo.
Okay, all right,
He's
I will. I'm on it.
he is the longest running inside joke on our podcast.
Yep.
So.
Yes. That
Did you
name
bring
comes up often.
Did you bring me up just to bring me on this podcast just
Yes.
to like
Just
put me on the spot?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's our theme over the summer is how can I get a guest every week to where I can bring up Vladimir Chebaturkin?
That's hilarious. Well, funny enough, I had a couple of like NHLers like at me on Twitter and be like, what's going on? Like, where's my photo? Like, I think PJ Stock, like someone like tagged him, and then he was like, where's my photo? Anthony Stewart was another one. Bob. Bob Beers. I don't know if it's the real Bob Beers or someone pretending. If someone's pretending, it's a great bit for 0.1% of people, but there's been a couple. I've tried to add them as I go, but yeah, when I got like I think I can't remember who. I think it was Anthony Stewart who was like, "Hey man, like I got like 200 games in the like I can't remember how many games he got. But he's like, however many games, like I got like over 100 games in the show. Like I think I deserve at least a photo, or something like that."
That's got to be so humbling for you to get messages from former NHLers or current NHLers or whoever and just be like, my game really like when did you feel like this is the real deal? Was it something like that? Like a player messaging you or the media tweeting about it? Like what was it that really
Yeah.
kind of set up for you?
First one was the media. Like I think right away, like some of the big names were like I think like right away like Chris Johnson and Frank Valley were both like replying to the thing with their picks, and it was like oh like this is insane. And then I had a former captain of the NHL like in the NHL like DM me and was like, hey, like I think one of my buddies is missing in your game, and like that was so cool to just because you see like they haven't posted publicly, so I'm not gonna like say it's not because I'm trying to be cautious, but they just don't want to uh, talk about players that are playing. But like
Yep.
when you see the name pop up, you think it's like a fan account, right? Because like how many like people that are like Elias Pettersson on Twitter, right, or Jordan Bennington on Twitter, but it's just some 3 follower. But it was like, oh, it was actually him. So that was really cool. And then even like not just a player, but there was a like really early on, like I want to say the first week, there was someone that put together like a their Puckdoku game, and then they like went into their like hockey card collection, and then they like made like the matching hockey cards for their game, right? And so like when I saw that, the amount of effort that it would have taken to like make the game and then go, maybe they have such a crazy collection it's actually super easy, but like the amount of effort that it would have taken to do that just showed me right away like how special something like this is to people, and it allows people to remember their favorite players and just kind of just have a fun time, right? And so that was really cool, especially for me. Like I'm not a hockey media person. Like you're asking me about my take on Carson Soucy. Like I'm just a fan, right? Like I'm not like I don't I've never thought about doing anything like having a professional opinion or anything. So just being able to kind of engage with the hockey community has just been it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's the best part about it. That's the best part of our show. That's why we do
Yeah.
our most of our shows live, because we love getting the live comments back. So yeah, being able to like basically contribute to the hockey society, the
Yeah.
hockey community is just such an amazing part of what all three of us do.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like there was like I had someone message me like they play with their dad every day, and then like they're good whenever I have the dreaded like Vegas or Seattle category, but their dad is really good at getting like the old like really good uniqueness for the older teams. So like stuff like that's really cool where you're helping kind of hockey fans connect with each other. Like yeah, that's been really special.
Yeah,
So how often?
I do dread when Seattle's on there because it's
Yes.
it's tough for goalie Doku, right? They're like 6 of them.
I, I, with all due respect to the teams, I dread it too because I just like every once in a while I have to put it just because I want to mix things up or
Oh,
just
yeah.
I just feel, but I just know what what my mentions are gonna look like when I do it, right? And so, or even like game count, right? Like it does kind of impact how many people want to play it, but it's it's a balance, and I'm always trying to kind of fiddle with the right balance of teams, stats, categories, and stuff.
And I was going to ask about that. Is that something that you come up with every day, or do you ever use randomizers, or is it just
So I've tried everything. I've tried like randomizers, but the problem with randomizers is that um, like this might sound stupid, but they're not as random as you think, right? Like
right?
you can get the same things all the time. And so for me, it's about trying to like equally distribute the categories and matchups versus making it totally random, because then that's how you end up like you can end up with like Vancouver and Toronto matching up 5 times in 4 weeks, right? And that no one wants that. Not even Toronto or Vancouver fans, right? So uh, I've tried I've tried using ChatGPT to like give me the answers, but I found it didn't really helpful. Honestly, I just do it manually. I have a big spreadsheet. I have all the past games saved in the spreadsheet, and so then what it does is it tells me um, 2 things, or a couple things actually. One is when was the last time a team was used in general, right? So that helps me just make sure that I haven't missed like a certain team in a rotation. And then also how often a team has matched up with any other team, and then when the last time that has happened. So, I can look. And so what I typically do, just to kind of give you a peek behind the curtain, is I'll look at the first one. I'll be like, okay, give me one team that I haven't used in a little while. Okay, like Carolina, right? So then I take Carolina and then I say, what are all the teams that haven't matched up recently with Carolina? And I'll be like, okay, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Anaheim, right? And then I take those 3 teams and I put, give me one more team that hasn't matched up with those 3 teams in a little while, right? And then I fill in a stats category just to like fill in the gap. That's like the typical that's the typical process that I do, and I find it's way more work on my side than just a randomizer, but it helps keep the games fresh. Like I never want to have a matchup that has been done in the last 6 weeks. Like that's what I really try to do, and I don't want to have the same team repeat multiple times. Like I don't want the same team coming up 3 times a week. It still happens on occasion, but I try really hard not to do that.
How much time do you put in now? I mean, obviously developing, you told us you
Yeah,
put a lot of time in, but daily on average, how much time do you spend
daily.
for the
I
next
would
game?
So the next game can be as quick as like 2 minutes. Like if I'm in a rush, or like I'm running out all day and then I need to go to bed, like I can just quickly wire one up in like 2 or 3 minutes, done. Um, I can spend hours making like a game if I want uh, like a specific theme or thing, or if I want to add a new category. Like now I'm really lucky to have elite prospects powering Puckdoku, and so they have quite a lot of data. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to find this like new slice, this like new kind of category, and that can take hours to wire up and test and make sure that like it makes sense for a lot of categories. Sometimes like I'll even like send a message to some of my friends and be like, okay, like if I put this in the box, like tell me what you think I'm looking for. And then they kind of tell me, and it's like, okay, no, that's not it. Okay, now I got to go back to work and like think through it again. And you can only fit, you know, 6 words in the box, right? And so whatever I do has to fit in that space. So it really depends. And then like maintenance and other stuff, I would say on average, not 1 to 2 hours a day I still spend on the
Wow.
site. Sometimes it's more, like sometimes it's way less, but yeah, like I actually still love like on a Saturday afternoon, like putting on a movie and just kind of like doing something that's been on the back of my mind for a while. So
That's
um,
awesome, man. That's
yeah,
dedication right there. So for those of you that play Puckdoku, there's a lot that goes into it. So we
there's a
appreciate that, Taylor.
yeah, and like extra features takes a long time too. Like I don't know if you've seen the community games and like being able to um, being able to create your own custom game.
Mhm.
That took, like, I actually had a friend that like I paid a little bit to help me with it, because that took probably 100 to 200 hours to get right. Like these things take a lot of time, and as I said before, like I spend a lot of time making sure it's like a fun experience, and that it's easy, and you can kind of like look at what I'm like putting on the screen, and you know what I want you to do, right? Like if it's like create a custom game, like you look at that like blank board and you should know what I want you to do, right? And so
Mhm.
that takes a lot of iterations, and um, sending links to friends and family, and then telling them the wrong because I think it's I have a better picture, and yeah.
So you can either log in or just jump on puckdoku.com and play.
Yep.
What is the benefit to people logging in and making an account?
Yeah, so the main benefit is being able to track all your past games. So without an account, I can really only track it to your phone if you clear your cache, or you switch your phones, or you want to play like some days on your phone, some days on your work computer, or and whatever. Like those don't synchronize. So the best thing about having an account is you can play a game on your phone and then see it there on your computer as well. With all the past history, you're able to get like a really fun slice out of your top players. So you can see like me, Jeff, like these are my top 100 players. And then from that, like a really fun thing I built in the fall was the ability to see how your top players stack up against all the other Puckdoku players, top NHL players. And so you can kind of get this ranking of like top 10%, top 1%, a number one overall out of all Puckdoku players for a given NHL player. So, like for instance, for me, I said I love to use Brendan Morrison. Like I'm the top 1% of like Brendan Morrison players, right? And so it's like another game within the game. Like I know some people like to be able to, they want to be number one, and if you're number one, I'll tell you you're number one overall, and you get a nice little gold star. And so some
Nice.
people really like to, for their top players to get that, and then also being able to create leaderboards, so you can like create a leaderboard and then have other people join, and you can see each other's scores every day, see how you rank and like stack up every day, which is a really fun kind of um, kind of thing to be, so you could have one for all your listeners, and everyone is able to kind of go and compete and see each other's scores. And then finally being able to create your own custom game. So you can give yourself a display name. You can create. I limited it to 3 games per day, which is quite a lot. You can do that, and then you can play as many other games as you want. And then there's a daily leaderboard where you can see like how your games that day have stacked up to everyone else. So it's quite a big platform, and it's still growing. There's some fun stuff on the horizon. So
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Bill, you have something to add?
I was just going to ask, any for the more old school of us, any fear that there could be advanced stats ever introduced to the game, or is that just
no,
not nearly enough of a population
not
because it's still so nascent?
Yeah, it's not nearly as much of a population for that. So if you're worried about that, don't worry. There's not going to be like Corsi 4 is not coming to a Puckdoku category near you. Like even funny enough, like even like saves was a funny one because I didn't realize, like I did know, but then I forgot that saves wasn't tracked before 1958, I want to say. And so there was a lot of people that are like, what do you mean George Vezina didn't have a save percentage below or like above 900? And it's like, well, like probably did, but wasn't tracked. And so no, I try and like I haven't even done like hits as a category. So I try and keep the stats themselves pretty broad. I do venture into, as you probably know, like junior teams a little bit, leagues, but even junior teams I save for like a bonus game. I never want to like force you to have to think about like a Kamloops Blazers player, because I know for you out in Missouri, like that's a big ask, right? Like that's a tough ask to be able to know a junior team from, basically across the continent. But I'm always trying to experiment with different categories, but I'm really careful to make sure that it's accessible to a broad audience, and not something that only like 0.5% of fans would ever know.
Yep. Well, that's a high uniqueness number of your fans if you did that.
It's a high uniqueness number.
That's right.
I do I do guest hosting every once in a while where like people can kind of help, like, craft a game. And like one of the biggest things is people would come in and be like, I want to create like a crazy complicated game, like it's going to be, like all London Knights themed or whatever. It's like, no, like it's like that's the thing I would always have to push back the hardest, is like, no, people play from all over the world, and we need to make sure that like accessibility was the thing I was most concerned about with these games. Is it can't just be like, it just can't be a niche. It can't be a niche answer. It can't be a niche category.
Yep. Well, Taylor, I'm going to surprise you and put you on the spot here.
Uh-oh.
We have got a Puckdoku Let's Go Blues Radio edition that I
Okay.
want you to play. So
Okay.
here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna dedicate this to all the Puckdoku normies out there, because, like, full disclosure, I love to play my game every single day. When it gets outside of my Vancouver Canucks categories, the knowledge can be a little bit shaky, but bring it on. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll even give you one lifeline. You get one
Okay.
Bill Day lifeline. All right. Okay. All right.
And I'll
here
try
we go.
not to let you down.
So here we go. So I don't know if you can read that too well, but we have got the board up here on the video. So on the left, well, I guess the y-axis, we've got all of Kurt, Bill, and Jeff's, the host of this show. We've got all of our favorite players. We've got played with Adam Oates, and these are all Blues, played with Chris Pronger, and played with Mike Liute.
Okay.
And then on the x-axis, we've got 19 played for the Blues from 1980 to 1995,
Yeah.
15 plus playoff games in their career, and 30 plus goals single season. So
Okay.
you go ahead and tell me, where do you want to play, and I will enter the answers for you.
Oh boy. Okay. So right off the bat, I think I'm going to be able to do the middle row, and then we'll see where we get to from there. So
Okay.
um, played with Chris Pronger and 15 plus playoff games in a career. What about? I'm trying to think of like I'm more familiar with like later players too, which is not a great sign for the board. But so I'm thinking of the all the Flyers he played with in Philly. So he would have played with Claude Giroux, right? Like he would have.
That
Yeah.
works for me. All right. So you got your middle square. We got Claude Giroux.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where to next? Well, 30 goals in a single season. Chris Pronger would have been Corey Perry.
Yep.
He won with Perry in Anaheim.
Yep. Sorry, we don't have pictures with these, but
that's okay. That's okay. That's totally fine. 1980 to 1995.
Tell you what, I'll even give you get one Bill Day lifeline and one Jeff Ponder lifeline.
Well, it's still not going to be good enough. Let me think here. Trying to complete the 1980 to 1995. Did Chris Pronger play with Kevin Dineen?
Yes, he did.
In Hartford.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. We'll count that. All right.
So I'm going to take my first lifeline and I'm going to go give me Mike Liut 1980 to 1995.
Bill, I'll let you take that one.
All right. Rick Hines.
Rick
Nice.
Hines. That's a good one. Am I spelling this right?
Yes.
All right.
And then Jeff, I'll take one from you. Give me Adam Oates 1980 to 1995.
Oh boy, let's see. Oh, who's a good one? Played with Adam Oates. 1980 to 1995. What about Scott? Was Scott Stevens? Did he play with him on that team, Bill? Or were those different years?
Those were, I think, Oates was gone before Stevens got here.
What about Phil Housley?
No, he was also not here.
Oh my goodness!
I would go back to the Detroit days because there's pretty easy.
Oh yeah, you go Steve Yzerman, right?
Yep, that's who I'd
Steve
go with.
Yzerman. I like it. All right.
So then going back to
let's throw it
Detroit
out.
days,
Anyway,
I'm going to seize some hints. So playing with the Detroit days. So did Adam Oates? He would have played with Chris Chelios then, right? Or no? Or does that time? No.
He
how
was.
How about Shanny?
Let's see. Oates with Shanahan. Did they? No. Well, they played together in St. Louis, right?
They did.
Yeah.
So I'll claim that as a 15 plus.
There you go.
Did Oates play on the? He played on the Good Penguins teams, right? Or did he play after?
I think he played after.
It was
like did he play with Mario?
No, I don't believe so.
So after St. Louis, he was in Boston and
Washington.
Bondra?
Then he went to. Did he play with Bondra? He probably did.
I bet he did.
We're gonna count it.
Bondra. Speaking of sneaky, Bondra is a great 30 plus goal assist points. Like he's kind of a often forgotten player. So.
Oh, I always used to say that he is the most underrated player in the NHL when he was playing. Nobody talks about him as elite.
Yeah. Well, people still don't pick him as a category. As a quick aside, just as a quick story, it's funny sometimes seeing how that uniqueness plays out where Gretzky will be the most obvious answer. Be like Edmonton Oilers 50 plus points, right? And you're like, oh my God, there's so many. And then you're like, I'm not going to pick Gretzky. And funny enough, Yari Curry is always the one that comes out first because you're like, okay, I'm not going to pick Gretzky. Who's another really good one? it's like, oh, it must be Yari Curry. So
Yeah,
there's been times where
what was the one bill the other day that we were talking about? Oh, it was Craig Anderson and Dominic Hasek. It was
Buffalo and
Buffalo, Ottawa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
so I thought of Hasek. I was like, no, because that's going to be the highest one. So I picked Craig Anderson, and it was like 40%,
Yeah.
31%. And Bill was like, oh, I went with Hasek, and it was 20
14.
or whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
how is Anderson more popular than Hasek?
Yeah.
yeah, I love those like uniqueness, like glitches in the matrix, right? Where,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
All right, Bill, help him out with these last ones here. 15 plus playoff games career and played with Mike Liute.
Brian Sutter.
I was
Nice.
gonna. Well, all right, I'll say this: 30 goals, single season, played with Mike Liute. Why don't we go with friend of the show, Bernie? Right?
Oh yeah.
Bernie Federico.
Nice.
There we go. That's a group effort. Did a good job there, guys.
So, would the custom game? Can we just go create that? With
Not-
what we just did, or how does
Not quite. So there was a couple things. First is right now in the custom games, all the rows have to be teams. And the reason why is like every time you have like a stat category wiring up with a stat category, like 50 plus goals and 100 plus points, like I have to like manually like tell the system how to like score that within the game, and there's just too many permutations. Like if you have like 50 categories and then 50 like it'd just be too much work to be able to manage all that. So it has to be 3 teams, and there's a bunch of categories for the top. I don't think played with is there yet, but all the other ones I think are. So
Awesome. Taylor, this has been awesome. I want to give you as much help as possible. I know there's a Puckdoku Patreon. Can you tell us what that's about and how people can sign up for it?
Yeah, so I'm kind of growing this community where you're gonna be able to join, and I give a little bit more of a sneak peek behind the scenes of like what's going on, like what I got working on. I also love to be able to use a smaller group to be able to pull new ideas and like, what do you think of this design, or does this make sense for you? I also do a fairly frequent suggest a player theme, and so I'll kind of put it out to the audience and be like, okay, who should I make the next player theme off of, and then I let people vote on which one it should be, and then that comes up, and then I do a monthly guest draw where you can help me design the main daily Puckdoku game. So that's a spot where you can go, and if you want to help out, the great thing is as well as you get an ad-free version. So if ads are something on my site that's bothering you, first of all, I'm sorry. It does help kind of keep things running, but if that's becoming a deal breaker for you, it's a great way to be able to support the cause without being peppered by the ads. As well, just kind of a teaser. I've got a new game that's currently in the process of the prototyping stage, and so the Patreon is going to be the one that's going to be able to try it first and help me iron out all those bugs that we've talked about before. I'm really excited to be able to share it with the wider audience, probably sometime later in May or early June. But I think the Patreon, I don't think they know it yet, but the Patreon's going to be able to try it out next week. So it's a fun way to kind of be able to try things as they're still being worked on.
Very cool. And at Let's Go Blues Radio, we hate ads. So I'm with you. Make sure you check out our sponsors, Wolf Power Washing and Mike with strikewithmike.com.
hyper local?
Yes. Taylor, they will not help you at all. So if you want to have your house power washed or buy a new home, unless you're moving to St. Louis, that's not a good one for you.
Well, let me tell you, Wolf Power Washing is the official power washing for Puckdoku. So there you go.
He just signed up too.
Wow, he did? How about that?
Wow, that's awesome. Way to go, Dustin.
That's great. All right. Taylor, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And again, I just speaking for hockey fans, it's not just Bill. I play, all my teammates play. We all are always messaging each other. Like, my favorite is when I get a random text at like 10 o'clock at night from a friend that's like, I was just able to play Gary Volk. or just like some random player from like 1989. And it's just, it's provided so many hours of entertainment for me, Bill, and a bunch of people I know. So speaking on behalf of hockey fans, thank you so much for putting this game together. It is so much fun.
Well, Jeff, Bill, thanks for having me on your podcast today, and everyone listening, thanks for playing. Like, it's just been a truly amazing experience to have everyone be able to play and come through. So, thanks for doing that.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, again, want to thank Taylor for coming on. That was really awesome. It's funny because we've had so many amazing, incredible guests on this show. Hall of Famers, Bernie Federko, Grant Fior, and then just the reporters, the everyday reporters for the Blues, Lou Korak, Jeremy Rutherford, Andy Strickland. Of course, I'm sitting here patting myself on the back for having all these people come on, but that's really not what I'm doing. Even national reporters, we've had them on, and it's really, it is kind of a nice thing to have and be able to put that in our back pocket. But for me, this was one of the more exciting ones just because, like I said, this is a game that has completely captured me. And every morning I wake up and, I get my kid ready for the bus. And when we're sitting there waiting for the bus, I play Puckdoku while he sits and watches SpongeBob. So, it's become ingrained in it as a major part of my life, really. So having Taylor on to discuss that and be able just to talk to him about the creation of the game, the future of the game, very cool. And like Bill said, there's a lasting power with this game. And I really could see myself 3 years down the road still playing Puckdoku. It's fun. I enjoy it. It teases my brain in the morning before I start work. And then again in the afternoon if I'm not done. And then again in the evening if I'm not done. Because like there was one the other day, New Jersey and Detroit. The only one I could think of was Brendan Shanahan. But I was like, no. Like that's going to be one. And it was 20%, which is high. I couldn't think of anyone else. And I'm sure there are people right now saying right now, oh, why didn't you say? Well, it didn't come to me. Next week, we will have another very exciting guest, actually two exciting guests. I'm going to talk with two players, two people very in tune with Alabama women's hockey. That's right, Roll Tide. They do have a female program now, and I haven't done the interview yet. I've only had preliminary discussions. But let's just say the players were very, very involved in getting this off the ground. So it's very cool to hear that Alabama now has a women's hockey team, which is incredible. So one of those players is St. Louis and Morgan Grzybowski. Again, a program created by the students themselves because these females going to Alabama wanted hockey, so they made it happen. And I think that is really cool and really exciting to talk with them about. So we are going to have them on next week. Very excited to talk with them. There is even talks possibly of them doing more stuff with us this summer, just because they're a brand new program. And hey, we want to get the word out. If there are young females in high school or middle school who are playing hockey that happen to listen to this show, we want you to know now that Alabama is an option for you to go get your education and be able to play hockey. I mean, that's incredible. That's so cool. So, again, we will talk with them next week. Very excited for that one, so make sure you check that one out. It's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about with them. I mean, just women's hockey is just booming right now, and it's really cool to see. So, for me, I'm very excited to have this interview. So I think that'll do it for this week's show. Again, thanks to Taylor. Thanks to Bill for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us for a summer show. We're going to have more content coming up. So, again, make sure you tune in every week. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by Mike Burgoyne from Real Brokerage Realty. Email him at mike@strikewithmike.com today for all of your home buying and selling needs. That's mike@strikewithmike.com. And by Wolf Power Washing, St. Louis's premier power washing company with the best rates in town. Call Joe Wolf at 314-420-5434 and get the best looking and greatest power washer in the area. That's 314-420-5434. That will do it for episode 31 of season 13 of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great week, everyone. For Kurt Price, Bill Day, and producer Austin, I'm Jeff Ponder, and I will talk with you next week. This was Let's Go Blues Radio. Until next time, everyone, let's go Blues. And why not? Roll Tide.
Sit, Ubu, sit. Good dog.
You thought I was going to say, son of a bitch, didn't you?